Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flat Out Racing Network's coverage of race number 12 of Season 6 of the Dark Horse Racing Series presented by Troy Lee Designs. Tonight, we are racing internationally as the drivers get ready to take to Motegi, Japan's twin ring Motegi, the Speedway Motegi. There's, of course, the road course configuration as well. This is going to set the stage for who's going to be mathematically in that championship hunt once we get to the Dark Horse 500 at Indianapolis next week. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, we've only seen this track on the schedule twice. That was back in seasons 3 and 4. But kind of interesting that a couple of the drivers that are previous winners here have gone on to either win a championship the following week or win the Indy 500 the following week. So kind of an interesting precursor for next week here tonight.
Yeah, and you got to think about it here. Right now, Craig Forsyth is really in a strange situation where he has about a 90-point lead on Jeff Heisong, and Rick Ravon is about 93 points back of that. On the bright side, Craig Forsyth with a good day-to-day and honestly just finishing ahead of Jeff Heisong and Rick Ravon, he should make next week at Indy a very relaxing race for him. He shouldn't be in any really big, dire straits. However, if something goes wrong this race for Forsyth, that immediately opens up the door for Heisong and Ravon to go back a huge amount of points, and that really makes Indy a lot more interesting.
So take a look at our starting lineup here tonight, courtesy of 40 Race, where you bring up the fact that if Craig Forsyth has an issue here tonight, we don't know how many drivers are going to be showing up for that Dark Horse 500 next week. We've seen in the past, with that being the big race at the end, we'll see a lot of one-off drivers make usually their only appearance on the season. But here tonight, 12 drivers are going to be taking the green flag, so there's quite a number of points up for grabs here, both for Forsyth to lose or for Heisong to gain, depending on situations.
And not only that, there are also some names in this field that, again, are no slouches. Matt Wagner hasn't really been able to run very many races, but when he has, he is kind of a guy that you look out for. Same thing for Eric Peterson when he's not kind of spinning. He is a fast driver. Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, Jim Herrick, I think you said he was making his first start of the season. So these are some of these guys who have some speed that we just haven't really seen this season.
Yeah, Rick Ravon, we haven't seen him for a couple of weeks. He's back in the field, going to roll up on the outside of row number 3. Certainly can't count him out as a driver to take a checkered flag here tonight and maybe mix things up for that championship. As here we go, 125 laps here tonight at Motegi. For the most part, in the last couple of weeks, we've been treated to shorter racetracks or the really long 2-mile racetracks. Motegi kind of fits right in the middle. Not a whole lot of banking for these drivers. How about Matt Wagner running where no other car decides to run on the backstrip?
Realistically, what he's trying to do is just break the draft wake a little bit. I think he may have expected a little bit more people to kind of follow him down there, but kind of just no man.
It's going to be for the second position. Luis Gonzalez-Nunez in the 14 takes the spot away from Eric Peterson in 36, and as mentioned, Jim Herrick making his first start of the season. Good tussle right there with Rick Ravon for P4.
Really, restarts the same thing. Restarts is the place that you have to capitalize here because you just don't know when you're going to actually get another opportunity to. I think he may have caught the wall.
Yeah, Gary Corley in the 7, and he kind of preempted me there because that was going to be the next question I was going to ask you. As I was noticing these guys in practice, a lot of them really tight, especially off of turn 4 and getting up into the outside wall. And I was wondering if that was the case of drivers out there and practicing a cue run, trying to get every bit of speed they could, hitting the wall as a result, or if we would start to see that as kind of a running monologue here as we got further into a run under race conditions.
I'm going to tell you, this track is a lot more deceptive than it looks. It looks like a fast speedway. It looks like, man, they're going to be able to cut out 5 right here. I tell you, in actuality, it looks like it's more like a kind of an elongated New Hampshire. It's extremely flat in the bank. The square turn 4 is a lot sharper than it's in. And realistically, I think the major contacts you'll be seeing is a lot of contacts on turn 4 and the outside wall. A lot of contacts on turn 2 just because the angles are so sharp and moving. I normally get that turn 3 and turn 4 is so sharp and it'll catch you off guard if you're battling side by side and just not paying attention to where you are.
Craig Forsyth, he was in a battle with Jim Herrick for the 5th position spot, now up into the top 5 after starting this race from the 8th position, so he has gained the most spots since the drop of the green flag. Corley, after we saw him flush the ball, he's lost the most spots from 5th back to 8th, so -3. Why would we be saying that Jeff Heisong has a shot of winning this championship? He's about 90 points behind Craig Forsyth. Well, they have to remember there were 2 double points races this season. Michigan around the midway portion of the schedule, and next week at Indianapolis, there will be double points on the line, and there's quite a hefty payout that's given out to the driver that wins that race. So still plenty of opportunity tonight for Heisong to still be able to take the championship away from quite arguably one of the strongest, most consistent cars in the field this entire season, that 27 of Forsyth.
So I will say, I think Rick Raybon may be in a little bit of one of those kind of desperation modes, and not in a bad way, but it's kind of knowing the situation that you're in. I'm noticing he was racing Pearson very, very tight, and I'm looking at it now where I think he's realistically just trying to claw his way up, because he sees that 27 is here, and he knows he's got to stay ahead of him at all costs, but again, winning the race is the easiest way to kind of claw your way back into this. And look at that. You've got Forsyth just riding around on the bottom.
Yep. Peterson pushing up there. Ooh, man, he had to really lift out of the throttle. Like there. Oh my gosh, Rick Raybon. I don't know if the spotter clears you or not, but he certainly cleared himself off that front wing.
I think that was a little bit of frustration. Just, all right, you're going to hold me up all these laps. You got to deal with that.
Now going to jump to the outside of Forsyth. Meanwhile, good battle up ahead of them. That is Matt Wagner trying to hold off Luis Gonzalez-Nunez. Nunez got alongside him down the back straightaway, trying to get the first lead change here today is driver 14.
A battle for first and a battle for second, or a battle for third. Rick Raybon and Craig Forsyth still going at it. They're just swapping positions.
Rick Raybon is another driver that has a shot mathematically to still keep himself in the hunt for that championship. He was 93 points back coming into tonight, 3rd in the standings. I was just actually looking back, and I can't count in most laps led from that Michigan race that we had, because the driver that led the most laps finishing in 2nd. But if you take the fact that Rick Raybon ended up winning the pole, led 4 laps, and went on to win that race, he got 100 points. So theoretically, if you are less than triple digits behind Craig Forsyth, if you can keep him within striking distance like that at the conclusion of this race, you got yourself a mathematical shot. Long shot, but still a mathematical shot next week.
And realistically, I'm just kind of sitting here and I'm looking at the different situations. Rick Raybon's kind of an all forward in this moment. You need to make sure that you're ahead of Craig Forsyth. You need to be putting yourself in the best situations possible, even if it does put yourself at risk just because you have fallen that far down in points. Where right now you really need a miracle. And for Craig Forsyth, you're kind of a little bit more in that conserve mode where, listen, you see Rick Raybon in front of you. Yeah, he is going to gain points if he finishes ahead of you, but it's not that dire in my mind where it's going to be something huge. I think realistically, as long as you finish with a spot or 2 of him, just make sure you run a conservative race. It's all right. You're putting yourself in a really good situation for Indy, and hey, right now, even the odds in Indy are very tough for both Heisong and Raybon. So I'm going to tell you, as long as you put yourself in the best situation possible, you will be fine.
Strung out single file now, even back there, a blanket you could throw over 3rd through 9th. Top 2 have been able to break away. Now Luis Gonzalez-Nunez with that big run there on the top side off of turn 2, back alongside of Matt Wagner. You talked about the fact that Matt Wagner has made a limited number of starts this season. This is start number 4 in season 6 for the driver of the number 3. He ran the first 3 races of the season, 1 top 5. That was in the 2nd race of the year at Auto Club, but had a 14th and an 18th in the other 2 starts as he loses the lead to Nunez. So for Matt Wagner here tonight, trying to come back, trying to get that consistency that we've seen from him in the last couple of seasons.
I'm just looking at these 2, and these 2 are really just 2 drivers that I know will never say quit. They will just keep on fighting and fighting and fighting until either one of them wrecks or honestly someone's going to catch him or someone finally drives away.
We talk a lot of times about series where there's playoffs, and a lot of the playoffs will have eliminator rounds, and I talk about the kind of disappointment if you don't advance to the next round, but also the level of relief of not having to think about that extra thing in the back of your mind. Just go out there and try and win. Luis Gonzalez Nunez coming into this race 121 points back in the 4th position. Pretty much at this point, mathematically, not eligible to still be in the championship picture unless Craig Forsyth runs into a problem here tonight and Nunez can cut back into less than 100 points. Does that give driver 14 a little bit more leeway and how aggressive he could be here today? Because one thing he could do here tonight, if he is able to close out the deal, he would tie Craig Forsyth for most wins on the season. Right now, Forsyth with 3, Raybon and Nunez with 3 apiece.
I mean, I know when I've been in a point system where it's cumulative points, where the entire season matters, there ever been a small segment like playoffs and the chase standings. I know when it's like that, it's pretty much, hey, if I'm out of the championship race, it's, well, I know how I got here. It's not that I messed up in 1 or 2 weeks. Realistically, yeah, probably Lewis is down in the dirt a little bit. Hey, he had a childhood championship, and again, over various reasons, he's kind of fallen out of contention. And yes, even if he does win tonight, and some horrible misfortune follows Forsyth, Raybon, and Isung, there is still mathematically a chance he can get back into this. Just, it's very slim, and there's going to need to be some amazing circumstances to get there.
Raybon's gotten to the inside of Craig Forsyth after he reeled him back in. This is for the 3rd position, not quite clear off of turn 4. He'll take this battle back to turn 1. Meanwhile, up ahead, Nunez continues to try to hold off Matt Wagner. It kind of looks like that outside line does have a bit of momentum. Just seems like he can't really maintain that momentum down the back straightaway once you get into the entrance. One on that top side, he just can't seem to be able to hold on to that spot. Inside line seems to be preferred. Yeah,
Luis would be slowed down there out of turn to 3. Not really sure why, but this is a very draft-oriented track, and with how the downforce on these Indy cars are, they extremely just kind of hug the track, and for drafting is really your best possible way of passing. And you're seeing here Matt Wagner start playing the weaving game, and it's really just to break the draft where it's just a little bit of help, because these cars are very aero and very track dependent.
But one area of the race that we have seen here in the past couple of weeks where Isung has really shown has been his ability to safely get on and off of pit road. 22 laps completed here under green flag conditions. Pit lane maybe playing a factor here a little bit sooner than we might initially realize. What type of difficulty level do you put this pit road in terms of other tracks we've been to this season?
Realistically, it's not our easiest entry on the pit road, just because when you're coming out of turn 4, there's a sharp left angle, and then pretty much you got the pit wall right there, so if you mess up, you're going straight into like a lawn dart. But this pit road does have concrete pit stalls as well, so you're going to have a little bit of struggle trying to stop in your pit box. Got to plan that out. The good news is on entry, it looks pretty smooth, but you got to deal with the banking coming off the corner.
Pit wall separating pit lane from the racetrack, concrete pit stalls. You know what I'm getting vibes of? Track we're going to next week, Indianapolis. So I might be able to, for some of these guys that aren't going to be in the hunt for the championship, might do a little bit of retesting for Indy here in the approach on how you get onto this pit lane in Motegi.
Realistically, you can tell a real rookie at Indy off of how they enter pit road, because there's got those 2 bumps at the beginning of the Indy pit road. And if you're not prepared, or you know it's there, you run over them, you'll spin up the car real fast.
Well, I mean, I can tell you from experience, I've gotten onto Indy pit road a couple of times, and I still hit the pit wall. So, you know, it doesn't have to be a rookie to end up having an Indy pit road get you.
A little bit more deadly than these, but
just a tad. So, the question would be here, when do we expect to see these drivers to pit lane? We've seen at different track configurations, drivers come to pit lane as soon as lap 30, 35. We've seen at other tracks, especially the shorter tracks, they're able to go about 45 to maybe 50 laps if they're able to stretch it. I'm kind of thinking we're looking maybe right in the middle, maybe lap 40 about when we have to hit pit road if we don't have a caution first.
It's an idea. Another idea is trying to work the race backwards a little bit. And I think we've already kind of passed the threshold for that. But realistically, you could try, and if you're someone maybe like Jim Herrick, Jeff Hysong, Charles Teed, some of these guys who are not really up in this main pack, you can try just to throw yourself on a different strategy. And that may be what, again, Matt Wagner and Luis Gonzalez have been thinking about. Same thing with Rick Rayvon and Craig Forsythe, is the undercut is extremely strong at Motegi. So, hey, yeah, you want to be on pit road first, but you can't be on pit road too early where all the tire advantage is gone and you can't make it to the end of the race. So it's kind of a delicate balancing act of when can I first finally pit.
Jim Herrick just took away 6th from Charles Teed, and obviously, physically see, there's not a super whole lot of banking. It's not a aggressive banking, but it's not the high banks like you've been at Auto Club or Michigan. So obviously, tire wear is going to come into play. The tire heat's going to build up in that right front, and kind of keeping an eye on some of these drivers that appear to have been able to preserve those Firestones for the long run. Herrick's one of those drivers kind of stands out. Started this race from 4th, fell as far back as 8th, and now has been able to work his way by Song and Charles Teed as they're back in the battle at position 6. But he's been one of the few that, even though he's dropped back, he's been able to work his way back up towards the front on the long run.
Extremely, and I can see Herrick being one of those white guys who kind of plays that long run game. Either plays it really long and hoping that a caution comes out, or he may try something strategy play, maybe come in earlier, maybe just come in right before leaders do, just try something at least to get him off schedule.
Interesting thing though is, while I'm talking about the possibility of tire wear, if you look at some of these guys up here at the front, they're only running about a 10th off of what their fastest lap was. So it's definitely fall off, but it's not fall off that kind of makes you all of a sudden take notice and say this is super significant. So not necessarily certain if anybody would gain any time or any track position if they came a little bit early trying the undercut.
Honestly, they could, and just because, as long as they get a good entry on the pit road, and again, it depends on how quickly they can get on and off pit road. It doesn't even really matter for tires. Honestly, if you're saying tire wear may be as good as it is, I'd be brave enough not to take any tires, just take fuel. That's like about 2 or 3 seconds that you shave off.
That's an interesting call.
Exit pit road would be interesting, but 2 to 3 seconds, you break the draft, they won't be able to catch you. It's an idea.
We've seen a couple of times here in the last, 3-4 races where it's actually been the exit of pit road that has led to more problems for drivers than even the entrance of pit road. Homestead, Miami, Eric Schaus, I think it was. No, I'm sorry, that was Kansas, where Eric Schaus coming off the exit of pit road. I believe it was April last week, I think, where Eric Peterson ended up spinning coming off of pit road.
Yeah, that's what really makes the difficulty. If you've ever raced at a track like Daytona, Homestead, or Talladega, the exit of pit road, where you can finally merge up onto the track, is the exit of turn 2. That's when you finally hit the blue cone and the blue line where you can merge back up on the racetrack. That doesn't seem like much of a challenge, but it's riding on that apron that has no banking on it, where you really have to kind of slow down, and how much speed you can carry through that, plus how secure the back end of the car feels. Those are 2 different things here. Looks like Matt Wagner.
Yeah, Luis Gonzalez-Nunez was on pit road last lap. Here comes Wagner. Here comes Rick Rayvon, Eric Peterson. So there you go. 35 laps, looks like, roughly.
Now, those are some of the guys who were leading laps, so I'm kind of wondering, like, hey, Craig Forsythe did stay out a few laps. He did ride around a little bit. Same thing with Charles Teed. Same thing for Jeff Heisong. I think they kind of just kind of second draft.
Forsythe did this back at Worldwide Technology Raceway 2. Ooh.
Man, look at Charles Teed!
And he locks it up, but I think he got it down to pit road speed. You don't need those Firestones. They're getting changed. Use them all up.
It was legal. He was under 50. That was... I mean, he made up a lot of time with that pit entry, but I don't think there's going to be a no-tire stop for him.
No, absolutely not. Herrick stayed out an extra lap, so his first lap led on the season. Of course, making his debut this season, but we've seen him in the past here in the Dark Horse Racing Series. At one point, I remember he was running a very consistent streak of top 5 finishes. I think that was back in season 4, if I recall correctly. And with him coming to pit road, this will complete the cycle of pit stops, which will put Luis Gonzalez-Nunez out in front, about 6-7 car lengths ahead of Matt Wagner. So, I was talking about the possibility of the undercut not working just based off of lap times. Nunez just proved me wrong.
And that's what I'm thinking, Brett. Really, that undercut just helps you so much, where it just gets you a little bit of extra time. I mean, look at the gap between Nunez and Matt Wagner. May not look like a lot. That is out of draft range, at least to my general opinion. It's about 1 second out. He is outside of that draft range, where he's not getting the wake off of Nunez's car. So, that effectively kind of puts Nunez in control here, so as long as he can kind of drive away, he should be golden.
Nunez to the lead, Wagner back to second, Rick Ravon third, Craig Forsythe fourth, and right now Eric Peterson completes the top 5. Almost 40 laps completed. We've yet to see a caution. All 12 drivers that took the green are still running and still on the lead lap, which is interesting based on the fact that back when the race leaders were getting ready to come to pit road, they were starting to catch some traffic. I believe it was Joseph Morales and Joe McAdory who had just been on pit road a couple of laps prior, but right now, the last place running driver, Joe McAdory, is currently 22 seconds behind race leader Gonzalez Nunez, about 6 seconds ahead. So that traffic will start to come into play at some point here once again for the race leader in the 14.
I'll tell you about one thing that, or at least one person that undercut really helped, had to be Rick Ravon. He ended up taking off from Craig Forsythe there, just looking back to see if he took tires or not.
Kind of on an island of his own. I believe he did. As a matter of fact, ironically enough, too, he had one of the slower pit stops. Most crews somewhere in the 7.7 to 7.9 range as far as servicing their cars. He was one of 4 drivers that actually was in the 8-second mark at 8.1, and a couple other drivers that had some slower pit stops, if you want to call it 8 seconds a slow pit stop. Charles T, Jeff Heisong, and Gary Corley.
He just really hounded it on pit road.
Mentioned about the fact that next week the track we're going to, Indianapolis, where drivers that ended up either eventually taking a championship or a checkered flag at that track were previous winners of this event. Season 3, Robert Maleska III took the checkered flag here. He would go on to Indianapolis to clinch the championship, and in Season 4, Henry Bennett took the checkered flag here at Motegi, and he would eventually be a Dark Horse 500 champion at Indianapolis. One other interesting thing, with those that being the 2 former winners here, we're guaranteed that a different Dark Horse Racing Series driver will be picking up a checkered flag here in Japan.
Just kind of looking here, I'm thinking towards next week. You're trying to set yourself up, if you're the top 3 championship contenders, you're trying to set yourself up for a good next week. Really a good Indy, because that's really what you need here. You need a good Indy run. And you got to think, for winning one of these races, you end up getting about 50-ish points, basically 50 race points. 50 race points plus any bonus points like leading one or more laps, or leading the most laps, fastest lap of the race, or pole position even. So you got to kind of keep that factor in your mind of these little things can just get you points here and there. But with the double points, as it would stand right now, Forsythe would need a very, very, very bad finish, a wreck or something to happen, and a lot of cars to show up. And realistically, either Heisong or Rick Ravon is going to need a race win, which, again, in Indy, that's tough.
Definitely is, especially when you consider the fact that Craig Forsythe, he's been there, done that, as far as winning a race at Indianapolis. Season 2 took the checkered flag in the Dark Horse 500.
So I'm just going to do a little bit stupid here, just so I can find this out. At the opening race of the season, we had 24 cars. The 24th car, Joshua Tucker, which unfortunately that was his, I think, first race in the series, ended up getting a 24th place finish with 6 race points and no bonus points. So, assuming it would be doubled for Indy, he'd get 12 race points. So out of that 100, you at least need to be within 88 points of Craig Forsythe. That's assuming the worst case scenario, but Forsythe wrecks out on lap 1, takes a fast repair, and wrecks out on the next caution. So you got to kind of hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Right now, highlighted just moments ago there, 8th position is where Jeff Heisong's currently running. You're talking about 88 points if you have a 24-car field. He came into this race 89 points back, and he's running about 4 positions behind Craig Forsyth. So a little bit of a danger spot right now for the 18. He needs more spots. He needs to at least get up there in the vicinity of Craig Forsyth. More importantly, it would add more favorably his chances next week if he were ahead of Craig Forsyth.
Yeah, right now as it stands to leave, if everyone were at their respective positions right now when the checkered flag dropped, Rick Raybon would walk away with 35 just base race points. Same thing with Craig Forsyth. He'd walk away with 32 points. Jeff Heisong would walk away with 24 points, and that would pretty much rule out his race.
Good thing that is on the side of the drivers that are hoping for a big field at Indianapolis next week, as the fact that in the past, there's been pretty good sized fields. We've got the stats going back to Season 2. Season 2, there were 24 drivers in the Indy field, 30 drivers in the field in Season 3. 33 drivers took the checkered flag back in Season 4, and last season, 25 drivers took part in the season finale. So the numbers, at least in the past, certainly make the future look a little bit brighter as far as the points scenario for a driver like Jeff Heisong or Rick Raybon. But again, that is only reflective if they're able to be within striking distance at the conclusion of tonight's race at Motegi.
Let me drop the pace car again.
I mean,
I almost wrecked it 2 years ago.
You almost did, but you learned. You learned. You did good last year.
This is gonna be a challenge. One of these days, when I'm pulling up around the side, I'm gonna end up hitting something terrible about it.
I think the best part is you always seem to resist the urge to try and take the green flag with him, because I know that's in the back of your mind. It's something you want to do.
Honestly, if I can convince them to put in a faster car or a fast-ish car. Unfortunately, that Corvette they put me in is about, it tops at about 140, 150.
Boosters for that thing.
That's it. It tops out about 140, 150, 160. I can't quite reach that 220 that they're running, but I think if we put in a COT car without the restrictor plates, I think I got this.
You think you can lead the first lap?
I think I can do more than lead the first lap.
It's all fun and games until I'm interviewing you in victory lane.
All fun and games to actually DRS.
Looking at Charles Teed, Eric Peterson, they've been mixing it up pretty well here for the final spot inside the top 5. And Teed's actually been on a pretty good streak as of late. Had that second place finish at Homestead. He had a 7th place at Iowa, but he ended up running inside the top 5 pretty consistently in that race as well. So, we talk about the drivers in the battle for the championship, but we have to remember that there's about 10 drivers, 11, 12 drivers that are still trying to find victory lane for the first time this season. And even maybe more so importantly, trying to just find a little bit of consistency to end out Season 6, get some momentum for Season 7, and kind of fill up the data book if we end up coming back to a number of these tracks next season.
Yeah, you kind of have to go look throughout the field, or you kind of find some very noticeable lanes with kind of a zero in the win column, and it's a little bit surprising. I mean, just looking at Charles Teed, I mean, he's one of those guys who has won in previous seasons. We know he's fast, but just always just knocks on the door, but just never is let in. Second place at Homestead, 3rd place in New Hampshire. He has been there, just bad luck. And the same thing for Eric Peterson, just so close, but just never there.
We would have to add Jeff Heisong into that conversation. The consistency out of that 18 car in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks.
Realistically, pulling up from the past seasons, it has been such a jump, and it's just been awesome to see how much he's developed. And he's knocking on the door. I mean, we were just talking a few weeks ago, but again, his last 5 finishes have been inside of the top 5. The last 4 finishes have been inside the top 3. I mean, if you're looking for his first finish outside of the top 5, it would be September 11th when we raced at Phoenix. He finished 6th, just barely outside the top 5. He's knocking on the door. He'll be there eventually, but again, I think he's just going to need a little bit more pace. He's got one of these.
And it's interesting too. You bring that up, and we've had the privilege of broadcasting the series ever since season 2, and it has been really fun to watch drivers as they develop. I mean, iron strengthens iron. You're only going to get better when you're going up against these guys that have these seasons of experience in these Indy cars. And we've seen drivers develop from one season of kind of going to school to being competitors up inside the top 10, top 5 in the point standings, competing for checkered flags. And it kind of makes me hopeful when we look at some of these other drivers. You got Glenn Lazon. We haven't really talked much about him tonight. He's only making his 2nd start on the season, but obviously he's going to be learning as we go along. Might be a driver to keep an eye on in season 7. Joe McAdory has been up there towards the top 5 in several races, and Joseph Morales too. We've even seen him pull off some really good finishes here towards the end of the season. I mean, the future looks bright for a number of these drivers right now, kind of in a learning period, but certainly can't count them out next season if they run full time of maybe being up there in the conversation for victories and maybe for the championship.
And honestly, the biggest comparison I'll pull to this is the season 4 of the Dark Horse Racing Series. Jeff Hysong started all 18 races that season. He ended up getting 5 top 5s, 4 of those at ovals, with the exception of Long Beach, because Long Beach is an easy track. So basically 4 top 5s on ovals and 9 top 10s on ovals. Or actually, sorry, take that back. I forgot we went to Mosport that season. That should be 8 top 10s. So realistically, coming from that for an 18-race stint, he led zero laps this season, or that season. He's started 11 races this season. All 11 races, he has 7 top 5, 10 top 10s. These are all in ovals, and he's led 30 laps, which is a huge, kind of massive when you go from those stats to this.
It's a fun battle to watch right now. You got Jeff Hysong going to make a couple of passes on both Eric Peterson and Jim Herrick, so move him from 7th now up into the 5th position.
And Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he ends up kind of kicking off that pit cycle.
So we're getting ready for pit stops again. This is going to be about 30 laps into this run, which says to me that he's pretty much got it marked of one more stop between now and the checkered flag. We'll see if that draws anybody else to pit road, but I don't know what it is about these drivers. We've seen it with Craig Forsyth. We've seen it with Rick Ravon. Now seen it with Jeff Hysong. You look at them, you see them running outside the top 5. You're thinking, maybe it's just a track setup, car combination that's not working out for them. Next thing you know, they're up inside of the top 3. What is it? What kind of a switch do they flip that all of a sudden it's like it's an entirely different car, entirely different driver?
Realistically, and I've had one of these. I had a great teammate who every race he'd kind of bumble in last minute of practice, barely does any practice, spends the first quarter of the race just kind of riding around trying to figure out that, man, this car is driving awful. And then just suddenly it's it's almost like you said, a switch is flipped. Hey, I got it figured out. I think I figured out how to run this car. And we just start driving through the field. I don't know how to explain it.
McAdory, I believe, just got put a lap down. Race leader Matt Wagner is on the eve of the cycle of pit stops. Still a great battle here between Hysong in the 18, Peterson in the 36, Jim Herrick looking on. Hysong's going to clear across the front wing of Eric Peterson going into turn 1. That's just going to really upset that 36. Look how he pushes up there off of turn 2. That swing from right to left, right across the front of Eric Peterson's car got him super tight, really disturbed the aerodynamics.
Yeah, he didn't seem too excited about that. No words really were said. Just, again, you could kind of see the visible struggle from, hey, I've got grip, to, I don't have any grip.
And Matt Wagner's on pit road. You saw Eric Peterson follow him down. Looks like Joe McAdory is in this lap, Joseph Morales as well. Turns the race lead over to the one of Rick Ravon, the former champion. going to stay out a little bit longer. Forsyth's going to come to pit lane the 27, smoking those front tires.
And realistically, I still say that Forsyth has some of the best pit road entries in this series, just because he's able to push it all the way to the line and never, ever speeds. Again, knock on some wood, but just the preciseness that a lot of these drivers have, just pushing it right to that limit.
Comes Rick Ravon now to pit lane. And yeah, we know that at least one more pit stop in the future for these drivers. They cannot make it the remaining 55 laps on fuel. Is Haisong going to stay out, and he's going to be, I think that's his first lap of the day, so kind of countering the laps led by both Ravon and Forsyth.
It's something to level the playing field. That's really what you have to do. Again, if they go do something, you got to go do something.
In terms of talking about these drivers so far, and I'll knock on some wood as well, being able to get it down to pit road speed, we've yet to see a penalty handed out pit lane-wise, but we got that money stop coming up, and the field has been really spread out. We've stayed green since the start of this race. You have to pretty much plan for this to be a green flag race from start to finish, so if you're a driver like Jeff Haisong, like Rick Ravon, you know you've got to keep yourself within striking distance of Craig Forsyth. How anxious are you to maybe overstep that edge just a little bit on pit road entry? See if you can gain, even if it's thousandths of a second, could be a huge difference into your finishing position in relation to the 27.
Realistically, dangerous game. You kind of have to evaluate your circumstances, decide how worth it is. Where if you're some guy in kind of Forsyth's position, honestly, I wouldn't push it too much. I'd just continue doing what I know is good, and if I have my marks, I'd keep hitting them. If I'm someone like Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, or if I'm someone like Matt Wagner, who's just trying to gain that extra second, yeah, I'd push it a little bit harder. Maybe I may push a little bit too hard, but again, it kind of comes with the game. But if it kind of really depends on my circumstances, because if I'm in a good position, I don't want to put myself in an inherently worse position by speeding. But also inside that, hey, you know how you get when you almost speed on the pit road. You try to slam the brakes, and these cars don't like the rapid press of the brakes. The rear end steps out and lets it spin around. It just doesn't really respond well to that, so you kind of have to weigh risk versus reward.
Interesting storyline formulating here between Luis Gonzalez-Nunez and Matt Wagner. Because if you kind of take the last two runs prior to the pit stops we've seen, Luis Gonzalez-Nunez has taken the opportunity to come to the road a little bit sooner. He's taken advantage of those fresh tires, and he has inherited the lead once the cycle is complete. But within the 30 to 35 lap stint, until the next round of pit stops, Matt Wagner has been able to reel in Nunez and take the lead back. We've got that one more pit stop coming up. It's going to be somewhere in the vicinity of probably 25 to 30 laps to go. Can Luis Gonzalez-Nunez find something here that will allow him to keep the three at bay before they make that final pit stop, so that way he can then, on that final stint, be able to hold on to win this race? Because as the trend looks right now, Matt Wagner is going to reel in Nunez in the closing stages of this race, and he will have the tire advantage.
So honestly, if you're Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, right now you kind of put yourself in that box. He knows when you're most likely going to pit. He knows when your fuel cycle is most likely going to end. So you kind of got two options here. You can really shock him and pit earlier than that. Don't really know if that would be in your best interest, but honestly, just kind of shake it up and see what it's doing. Or you can think on the same strategy. Right now, Matt Wagner is really in the most control here, because he does have the option to try and undercut me. He can. Basically, it's up to him if he wants to pit earlier or while he would. Or he can continue going on later. So right now, Luis is kind of in his own box, but he's currently learning how to go for it.
He was in sixth gear when he was in the draft of the 40. So he's got clean air, jumped to fifth gear, and then was there for a moment, going from 1 to 2, actually dropped it down to fourth gear. An interesting
worked here. So, hey, if he's found something, I don't think anyone else may have known that yet.
We'll see how that plays out for Eric Peterson, who right now is in P6. Wagner's continuing to close up here on Luis Gonzalez Nunez, and it could partially be the fact that Matt Wagner has about 5 lap fresher tires, but it could also be the fact that Nunez is starting to catch up to a little bit of traffic. That is, I believe, the 60 of Joseph Morales. That is the last car on the lead lap, so a little bit of air getting to the front wing of the 14.
You gotta think with how that air kind of hits you, realistically taking all the downforce off that front wing, which is really what you need to kind of stick through the corner. If you're seeing, again, these cars really like to stick to the bottom of the corner, but as we were seeing earlier with Eric Peterson, how much that car in front of you takes that air off just changes the handling of the car entirely.
Done a good job here tonight keeping it green. We have not had a caution fly. Flagman's really had very little to do up there in the flag stand. To kind of been just an observer, as same as all the fans here on the front straightaway and over in turn 2. One thing, though, that I have to bring up is not everybody has their faster pair still available. On the last pit stop, Gary Corley actually came down pit road during the scheduled stop, but did utilize his faster pair. I didn't see him get into the wall at any point in time in the middle portion of this race. Remember, he had that brush to the wall there in the first 5 laps of this race, so I'm wondering if that was the damage that he repaired with the faster pair. There might have been something where he got up into the wall, but we didn't see it. But he is the only driver right now that does not have a mulligan if something happens in these final 40 laps.
Just kind of slowing down. Damage to his car. No, I'm not really seeing any damage to his car. I'm not really seeing where he could have gotten the contact. So, it doesn't make any sense here. He may have been one of those things where we're just eliminating the car and use a faster pair for it. That does happen. That's usually why you hear drivers all the time say, "Hey, uncheck your faster pairs," etc., etc. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's true. By default, if you get a little bit of damage, the game will have the faster pair ready, and you have to manually disable it. So yeah, that's a good point. He may have actually not planned to use the faster pair, because I would think that with you looking back and not seeing him with any incident, if he did use his faster pair on the first round of green flag pit stops, he certainly wouldn't be wanting to utilize it on the second round.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. Like, there is a setting that you can do that makes it automatically disabled, but just it's one of those things that you don't normally think about. I really think it was just a minor error, but again, it does have some decent consequences with it. If you make a mistake, unfortunately, your mulligan is gone. You're kind of having to look at
Let's see if we can get a camera angle here to look at the right side of Jim Herrick's number 40. He got awfully close to the outside wall last time through 3 and 4. Not sure. It doesn't look like anything visible, at least, not with any of the camera shots we've got here. So it may have been a kind of a harmless brush, a la Gary Corley in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, I think a little bit close. Just barely slightly.
Folks, want to just give you a reminder here. Of course, the Dark Horse 500 next week in Indianapolis is going to be a permanent length race, 200 laps at the Brickyard. So we're going to have a different start time. When we come up, we'll realize that in a minute because the caution flag is on.
I think it may have been Joe McAdory.
McAdory on pit road in the
Wow.
312. Caution waves first time tonight around lap 90.
I think that may have been equipment failure.
Let's go back and see what happened. Took us 90 laps before the flagman finally had something to do, and I think you're absolutely right. Let's take a look at it here. It's off into turn 3.
I mean, I see the hands turning, but it looks like his throttle hung for a good
Really?
minute there.
It almost has the looks of if a tire went down, really. The
Yeah,
thing
that's what it looked like at first, but it doesn't look like inherently a tire failure. I think that's really, I think I'd chalked it up to more equipment failure.
See if we can get a look here on board. Watch the hand motion. Joe I think that is equipment fail. Something was definitely wrong. I mean, look at how he's got that wheel cranked to the left. As soon as that thing wasn't turning, he put a lot more input into that steering wheel, realizing he was in trouble.
It could have been that maybe the tire was just worn, but at least the recent laps didn't look like he was really pushing or hounding it. I don't. Huh.
Car came to a stop there on the top side of turn 4 with oncoming traffic. Race officials no choice but to throw the yellow flag, and the entire field is on pit road, so everybody is within the fuel window, I do believe, to make it the rest of the way. We're getting ourselves ready now for what's going to be roughly around a 30-lap shootout to the finish. And this completely changes the landscape, too, because it was looking like it was going to be the Nunez versus Wagner show. All of a sudden, now you got Rick Ravon, Craig Forsyth, Charles Teed in the picture. And this is huge for Jeff Hysung as well, because with the field being spread out, not as much opportunity to be able to get close to the 27 and keep his championship hopes alive. Now, he's only going to be 2 spots behind the 27, and they're all going to be bunched up.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are jumping for joy right now. Just definitely kind of in the back of the field. Joseph Morales, Lazon, and Gary Corley, those guys kind of jumping for joy here at the moment, saying, hey, I mean, they're kind of on the verge of potentially looking to go a lap down before the end of this race. That kind of brings them back into the competition. But again, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. Charles Teed's brought back into this. Both Rick Ravon and Craig Forsyth, they're now kind of rolling into the potential win category. Same thing with Eric Peterson, Jeff Hysung, Jim Herrick. Everyone's brought back into this.
Joe McAdory, with what we're going to assume certainly looked like some type of equipment failure, he is out of the race. Morales was the only other car that was 1 lap down, so he is back on the lead lap. So all 11 drivers that took the green flag to start this race outside of McAdory, they are still running, and they will still be on the same lap as the leader. And just out of curiosity, with it being around 30 laps to go, if anybody might have taken on a faster pair, most notably the 40 of Jim Herrick. No, nobody took on a faster pair there on that round of pit stops. So now everybody bunched back up here for the first time since we dropped the green flag to start this thing. Obviously, the anticipation is going to be kicked up with drivers actually be able to see a bunch of positions ahead of them. Is this the only caution we see here today, or is this going to be the moniker of cautions breeding cautions in the late going?
Well, as previous races have kind of taught me, usually isn't even what I call caution. It's historically a very clean league. There's not a lot of cautions. There's not a lot of issues. But again, with how desperate the straights are, you got to think Rick Ravon knows his situation. Jeff Hysung knows his situation. But again, you also have guys who are going for it. You got Charles Teed, who, man, I'm really going to get a win. And honestly, I don't know about my shots at Indy, but I do like my chances here. The same thing for Eric Peterson, same thing for Jeff Hysung. I mean, a lot of these guys just, they want to win. They want to win. And also, a lot of these guys have specific clinch scenarios.
Well, no idea what's going to happen here in the final. Looks like 32 laps once we go back green. Lights out atop the pace car. So I'm going to really quickly tell you that next week, with it being the longer Indy race, our normal start time of 9 o'clock going to be bumped up. We're going to be coming to you live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Green flag scheduled to be flying around 7:10 p.m. So be sure to join us for that. We crown ourselves a champion. It's the biggest race of the season. Everybody shows up for that one. It's the one that everybody wants to get that checkered flag, whether you're in the championship picture or not. We've seen a lot of drivers be able to pick up that checkered flag and win the championship in the same night. A couple of drivers will be looking to do just that next week. Again, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is going to be the start time for that Dark Horse 500.
Just kind of looking through this field. Realistically, this restart is going to be everything to these guys. At least it's obviously probably going to get to a really good jump just because, again, the leader has control. And I really think that Charles Teed, as being the kind of 5th car in line, he really needs to try and jump this restart. Same thing with Jeff Hysung. He really needs to be in the back of Charles Teed trying to jump this restart with him, because if not, he will get left behind.
Nunez up through the gears, gets himself a decent jump. We'll see if he's able to hold it here through 1 and 2, or if second place on back will get a whiff of traffic and be able to get right back up to him. Looks like the battle's going to be for second place. That could be good news for Nunez.
I'm looking back here. It looks like Haisong just didn't really time that restart well. He's kind of fallen off the top 5.
Rayvon now to the outside of Matt Wagner as Wagner pushes up the track. Rayvon almost into the outside wall. Not a lot of room being given here for P2.
And honestly, this is a fight that I think us here in the broadcast may have been expecting for a little while. Let's say we know the relationship between these two drivers aren't great.
Goes back to the season opener. Matt Wagner, Rick Rayvon, and the guy right behind them, Craig Forsyth. They were in a 3-wide situation for the win going into turn 1. Rayvon came out on top. Matt Wagner and Craig Forsyth suffered DNFs.
And realistically, I don't think he'll do anything out of his way, but I really think that, hey, if the potential is there to put your nose in a possibly bad situation, I think he'll do it.
Gonzalez Nunez is going to run the Nick DeGroot line there off of turn 2, right down to that white line, forcing anybody that wants to pass him to take the longer way around the racetrack. Rayvon jumped up there on the back straightaway. So did Matt Wagner. Oh, little contact maybe there between the 1 and the 3 going into turn 1. Then in turn, almost a little contact between Rayvon and Nunez. Things are getting tight here in the closing stages.
Definitely close, but I don't think there's any contact. But I mean, look at Craig Forsyth just slowly lurking there in the background. Ooh.
I think we went on board when we see a back. Oh, there goes Rayvon into Wagner. Wagner up over the pit wall.
Oh, Wagner's still flipping.
Caution out for the second time here tonight as Wagner's car comes to rest on the front straightaway. Wild ride from Matt Wagner in a battle for second gone wrong off of turn 4.
I'm hearing some drivers have some very loud opinions on this.
Let's go back and take a look at it here off the final corner. Wagner drives it deep from the center of the corner of 3 and 4 off. Rayvon doesn't give him a whole lot of room. They make contact there before they even get to the exit of turn 4, and then run each other out of room again when they finally reach the exit.
Realistically, I personally believe this is a bit of hard racing and no give.
No give.
This was like we mentioned a few laps earlier. This wasn't unexpected. But it was really just, hey, this is the way that I've been raced previously, so this is the way I'm going to race you. It's one of those respect things, and I think it's kind of come back full circle here. But that definitely kind of puts Rick Rayvon in a little bit more difficult of a situation. He's got that right or left side pod damage, just a little bit on that fin. I'm not sure if he's going to come down and fix it, but right now I think he's kind of in that position where he can't afford to come down and fix it, or he'll lose a bunch of track positions with it.
Aerodynamics of these Indy cars baffles me. Have you ever seen a car do a side barrel roll while going forward?
I've seen a Doom buggy.
I mean, look at this thing. It looks like a projectile. That thing is facing the right direction, and yet barrel rolling side over side. Watch here again. Does it right here as the back end is facing forwards. I mean,
I keep telling you, high-speed lawn darts.
It's a very accurate description. I'll tell you what else we're very lucky with is the fact that after he ramped it off that inside pit wall, came back out in front of traffic, that we didn't have more drivers involved. Very lucky that was just an isolated 2-car situation.
Oh, no. So I realized why Rick Rayvon did not come in. He doesn't know that he has damage. He doesn't know that his left side pod's damaged.
Right there with Matt Wagner. No way that the one car doesn't have left side damage.
Yeah, Craig Forsyth.
Camera survived.
Craig Forsyth pulled around and said he had no damage, but I'm looking at that car. It has left side pod damage.
Rayvon.
I think maybe with that blue paint, you just can't tell. And also, Craig Forsyth said, I don't know if you want to trust the guy in front of you, so honestly, take your bets.
See if we can get a camera shot here, the left side of the one. Oh yeah, you can visibly see that there is some damage there. These cars are so aero sensitive. Case in point, that wild ride there by Matt Wagner. I mean, normally with a stock car, that's a nose it into the inside wall, slide down the front straightaway, that's it. But with these open wheel machines, nope, you're going for a ride, and maybe a longer ride than you would originally expect. And that's why we see these drivers dart back and forth, try and cut the draft, because the low downforce, the low wing, the way these cars are built, every bit of aerodynamics plays a part into the amount of speed that you have each and every lap, your ability to attack the corner, the stability you have coming off of the corner. So far, Luis Gonzalez Nunez has been able to keep them at bay, but now he's got a new challenger behind him in Forsyth.
I'm just kind of looking at this, and I'm kind of hemming and hawing. Because right now, obviously, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he has been really the class of the field besides Matt Wagner. Matt Wagner is all the way back in 11th place. He did take his fast repair. He is fully ready to go. But again, you got to kind of claw your way back up the field. And I just don't know if there's enough time for you to really do that without another caution or something to kind of aid you. I'm looking at Craig Forsyth, and Craig Forsyth has speed everywhere we go, but just not blistering speed. He's really more of a strategy guy. So I really don't think he's going to pose much of a threat. And Rick Ravon's got side pod damage. I'm not sure how much that damage is going to affect him, but with this being such an aero-sensitive track, almost, I kind of think of this like a little Indian kind of way, where it has a lot of the same characteristics, but a very different way of doing it. And aerodynamics are just so important in these cars. I think with that damage, it's just going to hurt him just a little bit.
Craig Forsyth has made every start this season. He has only one finish outside of the top 5, only 2 finishes outside of the podium. His weak point this year has been qualifying. He's not qualified any better than 5th in the last 3 races, and here tonight he rolled off the grid from the 8th position. Next week, when we go to Indy 500, we're going to be having these drivers go out there, and they're going to be doing Indy-style qualifying. They'll be having the Fast 9, of course, as well. How important do you think it's going to be for the 27 to have a good qualifying effort? Because we have seen a couple of races in the past at Indianapolis where drivers that started mid-pack have been able to fight their way up to the front and eventually take the checkered flag. But will track position be an optimal thing for Craig Forsyth next week with the championship hanging in the balance?
Realistically, you got to think, the more heavy lifting you do this week, the easier it is next week. But there also is kind of a downside in that one too, where, hey, if you mess up this week, or if you push too hard and wreck the car, and you finish about 9th, 10th, 11th place, really that's the farthest you can fall is 11th, it is really going to make your Indy a lot more difficult.
Interesting that Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Craig Forsyth, Rick Ravon, they're going to be taking this restart with 11 laps on their tires. We did have about a half dozen drivers come to pit lane and put on fresh Firestones, including Jeff Heisong, Eric Peterson, and Jim Herrick. So it'll be interesting to see if just that slight advantage on tire grip, if that's going to help those drivers be able to fight their way up into the top 5.
And I don't really know, because I'm seeing that huge gap past the top 5 all the way to the back, and they've lost the draft already. So again, I'm kind of racking my head there where, yes, maybe later on if we get another caution, we'll have really great track position, but I'm just not sure in the short term.
Rick Ravon, left side damage and all, trying to hold off Charles Teed for the 3rd position. Right behind them, you've got Gary Corley in the 7th. Remember, he took on his fast repair under the 2nd round.
3 wide with Peterson back there.
Wow, that is Herrick in the mix as well, as I believe that was that Glenn Lazon? It was. He was actually up in the 6th position there for that restart, now dropping back.
Did Peterson take new tires?
He did.
So realistically, yeah, I mean, that could be the new tires kind of kicking into play. I didn't think they'd have that much of an effect, but realistically, they may be on something there.
Leader right now, the drivers that came down and took on new tires, team Jeff Heisong up to 6th place and trying to reel in the top 5. So we got a battle for the lead. Craig Forsyth, for a mere moment, had his front wing out in front. Nunez going to fight back on the inside as Forsyth had to bail off of turn 4.
I tell you, turn 4 just gets insanely tight out of nowhere. And I'm just seeing Jeff Heisong slowly start creeping in. He's currently on the back bumper of Rick Ravon.
I think that aero damage is coming into play for Rick Ravon. He lost 3rd to Charles Teed. He now lost 4th to Gary Corley. And now the fresh tires of Heisong and Peterson have reeled him in.
Man, look at
Heisong's
Heisong.
gonna blow by him.
Song is just driving off those corners.
Corner exit. Those new tires must give you that advantage when you exit out of 2 and 4 because he got that thing pointed and he accelerated away from Raybon and to the inside and past Gary Corley before they even got to turn 1. Look at the blocking down there to the apron. I think they had tires below the white line.
This might be the Hail Mary for Jeff Heisong, just trying anything to kind of get himself back in here, and it seems like it's working.
Right now, if you look at the lap times, he's running lap times, if not equal, faster than race leader Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, and he's doing that in traffic. Nunez is out in clean air.
So realistically, that's kind of... I think if we get another caution, they're in trouble.
You want another caution if you're Heisong, because you've already got the tire advantage. You'll keep the tire advantage for the remainder of this race. Does he have enough grip? Does he have enough speed that in these next 17 laps he can fight his way up to the front?
I want another caution just out of pure fact that I think the top 3 guys may see what I'm doing. They may come down and they're going to have to fight their way past this whole traffic in the back, plus Matt Wagner, because Matt Wagner's not going to make life easy getting past.
Eric Peterson with a dive to the inside of Gary Corley. That will move him into the top 5. Corley will throw the block on Matt Wagner, try and keep him at bay. And it looks like Rick Raybon, his chances of maybe being mathematically in the hunt for the championship, they may be slowly fading into the distance as he has dropped now back to last car running in 11th place. So if there is a driver right now that's lobbying for a caution, it's that one car.
And it's not really a great position to be in with a damaged car, and you can tell that you're fading. You need a caution. You're looking for every little thing, like, oh, I see a little bit of debris down there. I see a little bit of car spin. I think a car could spin. You're pretty much begging for a caution at that point.
Luis Gonzalez-Nunez has mentioned looking for his 4th win on the season. That would tie him.
They are 3 wide behind Heisong.
My gosh, and Peterson always seems to find himself in the 3
Look
wide
at
here.
Peterson.
Peterson
is flying.
And now they're 3 wide again. Herrick trying the outside of Gary Corley. Matt Wagner, high, wide, and handsome, and brushes the wall off of 4.
I don't think he got any lasting damage out of that, but these guys are on a mission. Look at Wagner.
Oh my gosh. From top to bottom. Did he just pass 4 cars in 3 corners? I think he did.
That's a man on a mission right there.
No lift.
Look at Herrick.
Trying to make his way back up towards the front.
This is like a little bit of a hornet's nest here. The unfortunate part is that they've lost the draft at the top of the field. So they're kind of in their own little battle right now, which is great and terrible at the same time. You've kind of locked yourself out, but with how these guys are racing, I wouldn't do a lot of caution.
Gary Corley got really close to the back of Jim Herrick. They're going into turn 1 as now he's side by side with Peterson for 6. You've got 18 of Jeff Heisong, who looked like he was going to maybe get up there and reel in the top 3.
Ooh,
He's he clipped! Heisong got clipped by Glenn Lasson, I believe. No, correction, that was actually by Joseph Morales. No caution as they both were able to gather it up.
Yeah, just a little bit of an optimistic send by Joseph Morales, and like I said, it almost stuck. It almost stuck. Really big props to Heisong and Morales for making sure those things stayed straight.
But now that really is going to hurt Jeff Heisong because that drops him all the way back to the 9th position. Forsyth now running in 2nd place. How anxious is he going to be to try and take this checkered flag away from Luis Gonzalez-Nunez? Yes, it would give him his season-leading 5th win on the year, but at the same time, the 2 drivers he really had to worry about here tonight to defend the championship against, they're both running outside of the top 8.
If I'm Heisong, if I'm Forsyth, I'm seeing that, hey, Heisong just had a huge save. He almost spun out in the corner. Rick Raybon has damage. I'm going for a win because if I win this, I think I can put the whole championship away right here.
We've seen that before, too. We've seen in the past where a driver has already locked up the championship before they even get to Indianapolis. So Forsyth trying to do just that.
I'd say I love Luis much as the next person, but this is my meal ticket. I see a championship here. I'm going for it. Caution's out.
Car up there against the wall in 3 and 4.
Rick Raybon.
I believe that is, you're right, the one of Rick Raybon. He's made contact with the left side of that machine. Third caution of the evening. It took us 90 laps to even get the first caution, and since then, in the last 25 laps, we've had the caution out a total of 3 times.
Actually, Heisong spun out twice. Or sorry, Rick Raybon spun out twice. once in turn 3 on lap 114, and then again on lap 115.
Here's a look at that first spin you were talking about. I thought I saw smoke there in turn 4, but I didn't say anything because I thought it might have been remnants of the near spin by Jeff Hysong. Ravon continues on there. Then we will look one lap later, I believe it was, into turns 3 and 4, where he loops it around again.
I'm seeing his, like I said, I know that probably the initial reaction of that is he probably spun intentionally, and realistically, I'm looking at it, I don't think that's intentional.
That thing looked like it just
If you're looking,
out.
look at the cockpit, see that wheel, it's cranked all the way to the right to go straight. That messes with that car's handling a ton. And realistically, if him trying to drive in is really just the back end stepped out and steering couldn't handle it, and at that point, you're just kind of along for the ride. Props to him for getting it back straight, but obviously going into that corner the next time and did the exact same thing, and that finally just killed it.
The first spin could be attributed to that aero damage he had. I think the second spin was the tires being heated up after the first spin and just having no rear grip when he entered into the corner. We're going to take another look here from the top roll bar, but we will get to see the wheel motion on the bottom of the screen. Watch the hand motion just before he gets to the entrance. He already knows he's in trouble. He already knows that rear grip isn't there.
And like I said, he did his best to try and save the car, but just at that point, when your steering is all the way out, I mean, it's really just a lost cause at that point.
Now the
You're
bad
just along for
news,
the ride.
now the good news is he still has his faster pair available, so with this caution he can come down and take it. The bad news is he was the cause for the yellow and he got lapped at the time. He would not be eligible for the free pass. He would not get back on the lead lap if I'm reading this correctly. We also now have the possibility, with a late race restart, we will get back green, but there is every possibility this race could end under caution. So at this point in time, once they turn him loose, we don't know exactly which lap we're going to be racing to.
Now let's do a little bit of a recap. Obviously, the guy's jumping for joy right now. It has to be Charles Teed. He's right back in it. Matt Wagner, suddenly he just vaporized back into appearance. Jim Herrick kind of bouncing up and down. Again, Jeff Hysong, he did kind of almost burn the tires off. I think if I was him, I'd come back down, I'd throw a new set on it and try it again. And Rick Ravon, again, just even though he's lapped down, hey, it's a caution, got the car back fixed, got brand new tires on it, hope for another caution, maybe you have enough time to get a lap back. The guys who are not jumping for joy, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Craig Forsyth, realistically, Luis Gonzalez Nunez is under one of the most high-fire positions right now just because Craig Forsyth knows it's on the table. Rick Ravon's a lap down. Jeff Hysong is in P9. If he goes here, he takes the win, I think it's game, set, match.
Well, to your point there, Jeff Hysong did come down pit road, did put on a new set of tires, as did Eric Peterson and Joseph Morales. Rick Ravon came down pit road as well. Hysong took on the faster pair. Matt Wagner, we should document, also ended up obviously taking on his faster pair when he had his wild ride on the front straightaway. But looking at the three of Matt Wagner, came down pit road under the last caution. He's got 9 lap fresher tires than the top 3, but he's turned almost 20 circuits on that set of tires. So does that negate his advantage on fresh tires now?
I think it might. Again, you've kind of burnt up your tires coming through the field, but the only really solace in front of you is that, hey, Forsyth, Teed, and Nunez are running on this pretty much worse tires than I am. They've been heat cycled over and over again. They're probably going to have a little bit of grip problems with them. And I'm really going through my first heat cycle here where, hey, I got them, and now they're kind of cooling off a little bit. Not that big of a deal, but again, just any little bit helps. And you want any little bit in your corner.
Can confirm that Rick Ravon was not the recipient of a free pass, so he will be the only car 1 lap down in the 11th position. It's also very unlikely that if a caution comes out between now and the white flag flying that we would get back green. So if the caution comes out, these drivers are theoretically racing back to the race-ending flag. Luis Gonzalez Nunez has been out in front for a good portion of this race, looking for his 4th win on the season. He's been very good at the lower banked racetracks. Motegi certainly does not have a whole lot of banking, and he's been pretty dominant after he got out in clean air. Can he keep Forsyth, Teed, and Wagner at bay for 5 more circuits?
And Wagner didn't get a really good launch. Neither did... Actually, I'm looking back here. Where'd Teed go? Where's Teed?
Try and take the 2nd spot from Matt Wagner. Let's see if those two, Forsyth and Teed, if together they can tandem up to Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Look at the snaking down the back straightaways. We had almost some contact there, 3 wide. Corley pinching down Herrick for 5th.
And realistically, we're kind of watching 2 different battles here. First, obviously, the battle for the race win, but again, secondly, a battle for Jeff Heisong trying to drive his way back up in the field.
Heisong's got to get himself at least, I would say, up inside of the top 5 with Forsyth running in 2nd and trying to take the race lead. If he's going to mathematically have a shot next week at Indy for the championship, right now, he's mired back in 8th.
Right now, he needs to try his best, just trying to get in front of all these guys, but he also has to hope a little bit that Luis Gonzalez Nunez can hold out.
Nunez did lead that lap, half a car length at the start-finish line. 3 laps to go, as still right to his right rear through turn 1 was Craig Forsyth. He'll try and swing it wide again off of turn 2 down the back straightaway. And look at him double wide, about 3 rows deep back there from 5th place on back.
Charles Teed almost lost it off of turn 2. Matt Wagner looks like he's going to get the spot from Charles Teed, backed off just a little bit.
Look at this hornet's nest as Herrick goes a little wide through 3 and 4. Heisong to the outside of Corley to his inside. You've got, I believe that is the 36 of Eric Peterson. These guys fighting tooth and nail for every position. If there's going to be a race-ending caution, it might be back in this one.
I mean, right now, if you're Heisong, you have to go. You cannot, unfortunately, the time to kind of lie and wait and conserve is gone. I mean, right now, you've kind of made your bed. You have to go.
White flag will be displayed. We'll race back to the checkers. Nunez and Forsyth looking to settle it out here at Twin Ring Motegi.
Looking here, I don't think Heisong can get P5, so really it's up to Forsyth. If Forsyth wins, I think it's over.
Highest I think Heisong could get could possibly be 5th, but he's got a couple of cars to get by.
Oh, he does it!
Turn 4, it's going to be Nunez picking up the victory. Forsyth in 2nd, and Heisong is going to cross the line in 5th. He got 5th, barely.
I really don't think that, so there's some things I think some drivers are going to talk about post-race.
Luis Gonzalez Nunez came into this race 121 points out of the championship. Finishes with the victory over Craig Forsyth. So Forsyth's runner-up finish, I think, does not allow this victory for Nunez to get him back into the championship picture. We'll, of course, wait for official word once the calculations are complete, but silver lining in that gray cloud, 4th opportunity to do a burnout here this season in the Dark Horse Racing Series, and compare that to the fact that coming into this season, Luis Gonzalez Nunez had a 0 in the win column.
I'm just looking here. Obviously, I really think with Heisong's rally to P5 and with Forsyth not winning the race per se, I think he's kind of on the very outside chance of having a shot.
Let's go back. We're going to follow the final lap here for driver 18. He crossed the line, I believe, in 8th place when they took the white flag.
So here's where it gets a little bit funky, and you're probably going to have to start this at the exit of turn 4 on lap 124. So he comes out of turn 4, and let's see, he brushes the wall a little bit, and he has contact with Rick Ravon. Rick Ravon currently is a lap down car. He's not a factor in this. So obviously he wants to arc down lower, can't get down. Rick Ravon's there. He needs to track down Gary Corley, who's in front of him, arcs down again, tries to get behind him, and it's just one of those battles. And he kind of sets himself up well. He pins Ravon against the wall, and then as Corley starts to wash up, he's driving underneath and driving by him. And then after the checker, there's a little bit of displeasure shown by the driver of the one. Not sure why.
Heisong able to get Corley for that 5th position. could be the difference into whether he's going to be battling for a championship next week or not. I mean, as things stand right now, even if he is mathematically in the hunt, it's still going to be a long shot. Even with the double points, the amount of a gap for the points lead that Craig Forsyth has been able to build up. I was looking back. I saw the Wagner machine had been turned around. I was wondering what that was about. I think it was just a little bit of fun between him and Charles Teed. I was a little curious about that, but it looks like it's basically just some harmless banter there between a couple of drivers. So let's see if we can, before we talk with some of the drivers here, and obviously, hopefully, before this broadcast's conclusion, we'll have a general idea of if it is going to be a two-horse race still next week with the championship hanging in the balance, or if Craig Forsyth may be heading into Indianapolis with the championship already locked up prior to the green flag dropping, as Luis Gonzalez Nunez, 4th win on the season. And this is a, you know, I said the low banking, but if you look at some of the other tracks that he has taken the checkered flag at, a lot of them are the shorter configuration tracks. So, of course, the Milwaukee Mile, Gateway a couple of weeks ago, and where he won his first race, New Hampshire. This track's a little bit more lengthier, but still, with that low banking, still was able to have really one of the strongest cars of the day.
I'm just looking here, and my mind's kind of stuck on this point scenario. I think that Haisong just barely has a chance. Just barely. With Forsyth missing out on the win and him just managing to drive up to 5th, I think he has just barely a shot.
There's a bunch of different bonus points that are given out. If you lead a lap, if you have no incidents, if you lead the most laps. Obviously, that one I think's negated for both Forsyth and Jeff Haisong. Nunez undoubtedly led the most laps here tonight, either he or Matt Wagner, but I think it would have been the advantage to the 14. Not certain about the no incidents there. The contact for Jeff Haisong at near spin, I don't know if that would have gone down as an incident or not. Craig Forsyth, to my knowledge, didn't have any incidents here, so I don't know if that...
I think it was partially, Jeff Haisong did have contact after the checkered, so I think that would technically, since all drivers have not finished, I think that would invalidate the no incidents bonus.
And that's 3 bonus points right there for no incidents. Neither driver got the pole, so that 2 bonus points are out of play.
I don't think he hit anyone else other than that.
Obviously, we'll get all the confirmation, hopefully, before this broadcast is over. We'll take a look here at the final finishing results from this race. Got 11 drivers reach the conclusion. The only driver that DNF'd was Joe McAdory, after he had some kind of a strange, we're assuming mechanical problem or something over in 3 and 4. That car just refused to turn once he entered into turn 3. And we had 10 of our remaining 11 drivers finish on the lead lap. 3 caution flags here tonight, all taking place in the final 35 laps of this race. Well, while we take the opportunity here for the race officials to get everything squared away points-wise, let's see if we can talk with a few of the drivers here tonight that finished up on the podium. And we'll kick things off with a driver that was making his 4th start on the season after a little bit of a spell not in the race car. Brings home in the 3rd place position after a wild ride and a good comeback finish. Let's see if we can talk with Matt Wagner. Hey, Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
How's it going, guys?
Well, man, I'll tell you what, the beauty of the faster pair here in the Dark Horse Racing Series, because we saw you around lap 90 visit a couple of stratospheres above this racetrack, and then we see you cross the line at the checkered flag in the 3rd position. But got a strong car out there today, qualified this number 3 on the pole position. Looked like it was a pretty good battle between yourself and the 14. I gotta ask, if this thing had played out green to the end, it kind of looked like the 14 was able to get you with the undercut, but you always seemed to reel him back in at the end of the run. If that was the way that things were trending, were you going to be able to get him by the time that checkered flag was waving?
I sincerely doubt it. I was really, using tires up trying to catch him. He was a lot better than me in the dirty air. Uh, During that first green flag run, I said, well, I have no dirty air to kind of do a little practice off of. And for here he comes. Here comes Luis. And he was just, I guess we're kind of like sharing the draft or whatever. And we're just kind of trading back and forth early on. But toward that final stage, what I learned throughout the whole race, I don't know if it would have gone green to the end if I would have caught him. I think I would have ran out of laps. It's so hard for me to catch, especially if I'm like what, hundreds, maybe about 500s per lap faster. That's not enough time.
This is going to sound like a very odd question, just off of how this races went. But when you got those new tires after the rough and tumble race of the front straightaway, we noticed that you, Haisong, and I think I'm missing one, ended up getting really better exits. How much did new tires really help you versus the existing, I think, 18 lap old tires at that point?
I think that new tires, there weren't many laps on them. I think you had to do more of the heat of the tire, because the more I would burn that right front and that right rear, the harder the grip would be and harder to maintain and stay in the draft with that dirty air. But with the new tires, it made a whale of a difference. But just ran out of laps, man. It is what it is. But I was able to cut through the field like that, and oh man, there was a couple of times where I was kind of nail biting it, but I was just kind of glad to finish up in the top 5 there.
Been a while since we've seen you out there on the racetrack. Good momentum heading into next week, a track and event that you know very well how to find Victory Circle, a former winner of the Dark Horse 500. So, I mean, no driver yet has been able to be a 2-time winner of the Dark Horse 500. What's the confidence level going into that? What's the preparation in attempting to be the first driver to do just that?
Lots of practice. I've raced the new configuration of the Indy court. Besides that, we're going to a new Indy. It feels like it's repaved. It feels like it's gotten a little bit faster. So, yeah, it's so I'm really excited to about to get there, man. Indy, I can't wait.
Should be a good one. A great race here tonight is a precursor to that main event to end out the season next week at Indianapolis. Congratulations on the great performance. Up there in the top 3 pretty much all night long. Had that little bump in the road, but fought your way back up to the podium. Before we let you go, though, we'll give it the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
I'd like to thank Next Level Racing, HyperX, GSI, Graphics Esports for making this terrific new garden paint scheme. He did a wonderful job on this thing, and you guys for making the broadcast. It's been a while since I've been here, so it's been a real treat. This is one of my tracks that I wish I had a win. I've been over so close so many times. It's just it sucks, but I'll take top 5. But we'll go about that.
Matt Wagner, 3rd place finisher here tonight at Twin Ring Motegi. Congratulations once again. Best of luck next week in preparation for that 500 race.
All right, man. Thanks you.
Matt Wagner took the checkered flag at Indianapolis back in Season 3. Season before that, in Season 2, it was Craig Forsyth taking the checkered flag, and he's our 2nd place finisher here tonight at Motegi. Let's talk with the points leader. Hey, Craig, Matt, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Consistency keeps doing what he's doing. Another finish inside the podium here tonight on the eve of that season finale where you're hoping to wrap up the championship. Coming into tonight, we looked at the fact you didn't have the best qualifying effort. Never seems to be a panic moment, though, because we see you up there when it counts the most at the end of this race. But here tonight, a little bit slower methodical movement to the front there. Didn't really see you up there in the top 3 until that final restart.
No, I'm not going to pretend I got anything but lucky, and with Matt and Rick coming together there. I was settled into the fourth and had accepted. I'd led a lap, but then Rick had also led a lap, so I was like, well, the best I'm gonna get out of this is the fourth. But then they came together, and I got lucky and was able to. I was just far enough back that I was able to not get involved in it, and able to take the second from there. Yeah, no, it's Motegi's not my not one of my strong tracks, that's for sure. So a much better result than I was expecting tonight.
Well, speaking of results, well, points are in, and I just had a chance to kind of browse over it. And short of us getting the highest car count of the season, I think you've pretty much mathematically locked this championship. Now, again, there is still a lot of scenarios that could play out. We could have a lot of cars show up. You could have 2 engine failures in 2 laps. It could happen. But I mean, how does that kind of affect you going into next week?
It's Indy. I want to win Indy no matter what. It's not the it may be the season ender, but it's a track you want to win no matter what. But yeah, it's gonna have to see on the day what that means. How I don't want to be driving. I don't want to be so. Oh my goodness, I've lost it. Yeah, I don't want to be driving so nervously that I give up a chance at a win. That's for sure, especially Indy.
We talked about the fact you're a former winner of the Dark Horse 500. That was back in season 2 when you were running on a part-time schedule. You weren't going into that race with the championship hanging in the balance. Do you have to go into that finale next week with that kind of same mentality? Do you put points completely out of your mind?
I mean, you're supposed to, because I mean it's Indy, and it means a lot to win the race. It's 500 miles. It's you want to come away and drink the milk. It's the most important race every whenever it happens. So you want to win, and it's a track you want to win at.
We talked just moments ago with Matt Wagner, former winner in season 3 of the 500. You won it the season before in season 2. So far, we've not had a driver win the Dark Horse 500 multiple times. I mean, just how important would it be for you to kind of set that historical mark as the first multiple winner of that big race?
That'd be cool. I didn't know that hadn't happened yet. So yeah, I will happily. That's extra incentive, I think. But I mean, the championship is the main thing to keep in mind. So coming up to the race, I mean, we're going to be working to get the car count numbers up all week because of course it's the 500. We want to put on a good show. So that's the primary, is to get the car count up so that we have a good race on next weekend.
Well, Craig, congratulations on yet another strong performance. It's going to be very interesting for us up here in the booth to try and be working the calculator, see if there's any possible way that, you might end up not being able to win the championship. But right now it's looking like the odds are pretty well in your favor. It gives you that little bit of leverage to go out there, race hard to be able to win that Indianapolis race next week. Before we let you go and get yourself prepared for next week's race, we're going to give the opportunity to you for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Oh, well, I got to thank Jim over at 4D Racewear. It was nice to see him be able to come out tonight. He's hoping to be able to come out next week as well for the 500. So good guy and a good team to be part of. And I mean, everyone at the entire Dark Horse crew. I mean, we have this, our core drivers that come out week after week, and during the cautions there, we're talking to each other and making comments. It's a good league to be a part of, and of course you guys over at FRN, good bunch of guys. Thanks for having us, and we look forward to next weekend.
Craig Forsyth, second place here tonight. Pretty sizable gap for the points lead going into Indianapolis next week. Congratulations once again, the great performance, and looking forward to seeing what you and the rest of the drivers bring to the table when we get to the Yard of Bricks.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Stay safe.
And let's now see if we can go down to victory lane. 4th time this season for Luis Gonzalez Nunez. The latest here this evening at Motegi. Luis, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Man, I'll tell you what, you have had a career year here in Season 6. 4 trips to victory lane. Certainly looking like this number 14 could be one to watch when we get to Indianapolis next week. But let's talk first here about tonight at Motegi. Looked like it was a battle between you and the three, really, in terms of handling, in terms of speed. But you kind of got the advantage on them in terms of strategy. Had that extra 3 or 4 lap undercut that always seemed to get you the track position. The question is, though, would you have been able to hold on to that race lead if this thing had gone green based off what we saw in the cycles?
Uh, Actually, yes. I make short for the just only for one reason. I really practice before the pit entry, so I don't know if the people, the other guys training on pit entries. So when I coming in, I just come in on very extremely close to the line. So when I pit entry on the first time, I say, okay, maybe Wagner is gonna come in next pit stop, and also I maybe figured out too. I'm still thinking about maybe when I get past Wagner is because maybe when you exit the pit stop. So maybe that's the reason. It's not about if I coming in faster or not. So, but yeah, I really may calculate for no, I calculate for 3 times short stop. So basically, yes, and the last stop I put maybe I don't know, try to put 40 something liters or something like that. I don't know how many gallons is there, but yeah, I really figured out I to finish with maybe 2 laps or maybe 1.5 laps extra in my tank. So yeah, so I really calculate before I make laps before in practice. I calculate for extremely more consume for my tank. So I said, okay, this is this, and well, it works. Was works. I really I really happy because it works. I really surprised because I passed Wagner on the first pit stop like a 1 second or something like that. But the funny thing is we make the same lap every single lap. So it's like I push him and he pushed me back, and I push again and he pushed me back. So it's like I saw in my relative, for example, he did faster lap, and after that I didn't for him, and we go like that. So was fun to that.
So I've got to ask on that final rundown to the checkered flag, with you battling it out with Craig Forsyth, is there any point there where you pretty much said he's got me? I think I'm going to lose this race, or was it just constant? I got this.
Yes. And one point I thought to maybe pass me on must to be super extremely super hardcore. Must to be hardcore, Craig, and stay maybe. I think in my mind between when he tried to in the yellow flag, I said maybe if I go to the line, he don't give me any space, and the last moment, the break point, he can come it up and come it down again. And when I have just only one screen, so in my computer I have just only one screen, so basically I cannot see more than that. So if Craig have a 3 screen over there, maybe he can handle it with, okay, in the last moment I'm gonna squeeze Luis to the line, and I go to try to don't make Luis the turn easily. So he just only push me to the apron, basically, and he go to the second line and go to the win the race. But the thing is, maybe we can get touch, and maybe I'm gonna be touch to him, and maybe Wagner could win the race. But it's not happened. That is the good thing to play. Oh, sorry, with race with Craig, and this really clean guy. So I really enjoy that. So I feel like a secure to have Craig next to me. So it's like a maybe, but in my mind thinking about maybe could be if it's really crazy and hardcore guy. Yeah, But no, I really, if it maybe I can, I don't know, should be in. I can do that in case to the this race gonna be the championship. Try to maybe 3 laps to go. Try to do that and find a way and maybe tasting one time, 2 times, and the last one maybe tasting him and make the call. But no, maybe I don't know. It's just hypothetical situation or case. But yeah, I thought inside on the moment, I thought maybe could be, but no, should be more super hardcore. Could be hardcore that.
Now, obviously, with the off week last week, maybe a little easy to lose sight of, but with this victory, back-to-back wins in the last 2 races, you along with Forsyth and Rayvon have been able to do that this season, so congratulations on that. But one thing I got to think about as we shift gears and look towards next week, the big main event at Indianapolis, you've been really, really good at the tracks with the low banking. Your victories previously to tonight, New Hampshire, the Milwaukee Mile, and of course, Gateway 2 weeks ago. Those were tracks that were low banks, but they were also a shorter configuration in terms of distance. Here tonight, a bigger racetrack, only 10 degrees of banking though, so the low banking was still there here at Motegi. Next week, we go to Indianapolis. The track is 2.5 miles in length. But one thing that I notice is there's not a lot of banking in the turns, just a little bit over 9 degrees of banking. So with what we've been able to see you do at the tracks that have the low banking, what's the confidence level of getting the season-leading 5th win on the year, make it 3 in a row to close out the season, and win one of the biggest races on the schedule?
Yo, I hate Indianapolis. I really don't like Indianapolis at all. I really don't like for in the IndyCar 18 or IR 18 or this one. So really, I don't like it. I really is the one of the um, race or maybe oval. Don't like it a lot. Really, it's too difficult. I have a bad experience. I really good experience to start it in the front, and I say okay, cool. But if it's 200 laps, it's really really lottery, and it's lottery if only can be a green flag. If you stop it in the right spot, in the right moment, could be like a win. So it doesn't matter if I 2 3 seconds or 5 or 10 seconds in the front, could be make calculation, bad calculation, and lost the race for what, maybe one pit stop more than the other guys. So it's really, really thinking a lot how it's gonna be. But I hope can win that race. I really still in my mind races like Iowa. What else? Maybe Kansas. I don't. Maybe the first one, Pocono Auto Club, was races can maybe the next week can battle for the championship because I win 4 now, and with Indianapolis could be maybe the main thing. So I really calculate like a top 5 in that races gonna be maybe what 20 points or 10 points of great foresight. So yeah, the thing is really I don't like Indianapolis, but it's depend the configuration, it's depend the setup, it's depend the weather. If the weather is too high, it's gonna be difficult. If it's too slow, it's gonna be easy, but it's still difficult in the calculation and on the fuel or the gallons. So it's like let's see. I hope. I really have a bad experience before this year in one Indianapolis 500 with this car. I lead the race for what for one stint. I was second for all the stint, and just only for don't put 2 liters more in my tank, or maybe a fuel tank in my fuel tank in my tank. I finished 15, so it's like so 930 laps in the second place to finish 16 because I short for through what 5 laps maybe 5 laps short. So it's really annoying, and I hope it's not happen that. So um, yeah, so let's see what's happened on that day. So I really, again, I don't like it, but with these cars without configuration inside in car is much better. It's much it's like more enjoy than white jacket and uh, what else, anti-roll and things to make a difference in between the cold and hot situation in the car, or maybe the grip, or maybe the PDEX entry or exit or whatever. So it's better like this. So like what has happened before, like when you have an IndyCar fixing in iRacing. So it's like just only your hands and just strategy in your mind, making notes, and that's it. So that's why I like it.
Well, he's got a lot of good momentum with the victory here tonight. Hopefully, that'd be enough to defeat the Indianapolis Gremlins next week. But, Luis, congratulations on the victory here this evening. We'll let you get back to celebrating. Before we do that, though, we'll hand the microphone over to you and let you do some victory lane thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, I'm gonna say thank you to SimRacer 24/7 to support me. What else? HyperX, HTV, and another couple things I have inside, so I don't remember. And I know we changed the hour. Maybe in USA too, you changed the hour and for the winter time in there. So in Chile, it's 2 hours less. So it's maybe no more. So it's like a 1 a.m. or something like that over there, or 12. So my mom is watching me over there in the big screen, and I say in Spanish, gracias por verme, espero que te haya gustado la carrera y a ver si la próxima semana 200 vueltas, creo que son 3 horas de carrera para la próxima semana. Así que besos, abrazos. I say thank you for watching me. I hope you enjoy this race, and let's see next week. It's gonna be 3 hours race. If it's green flag, if it's with yellow flag, it's gonna be 3 hours and maybe 3 hours and a half, maybe 3 hours 30, 40, something like that. So let's see what's happen, and let's try to get the big win. So this is the big win. So try to get that double point. Doesn't matter if I no battle for the championship, but if that's the thing, if I see Craig and Jeff in the last lap and me with good tires and try to win the race, definitely I don't wanna just guys, keep going. Let's just battle do together to the win. So let's see happen. And what I said, one Chilean football soccer guy say, I hope we win it the best one.
Well, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, again, a lot of good momentum going into that season finale. His second win in a row, his fourth win on the season. He takes the checkered flag here tonight at Motegi. Congratulations, Luis. Best of luck next week as you look to cap off what's been a career year in the Dark Horse Racing Series for you.
We'll see you next one in the big one.
So as Luis Gonzalez Nunez continues his celebration down in victory lane, Matt, you said you've been perusing over the points. What's the scenario we've got going into that season finale? Is the championship already locked up?
So this is going to be difficult. Right now, it's really an uphill battle for Jeff Hysong. Realistically, the guys who I am pretty sure are out of it has to be Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Rick Ravon. Rick Ravon just had a terrible race, even with Luis Gonzalez Nunez winning the past 2 races, just not within contention. Realistically, Jeff Hysong is the one with the best shot. But if we're going back to our first race this season where we had 24 entrants, assuming the absolute worst, Craig Forsyth finishes and we have a core count of 24, he will gain 12 points out of that. Assuming that Hysong wins the race, he probably will get about 108 points. It's almost not enough. It's 96 points he will end up gaining. He's about 12 short. We need more than 24 cars, and even then, like I said, that's just miracle scenarios. So everything has to play out right for Hysong next week.
Now, one thing that looking ahead to that Indianapolis race that our winner Nunez brought up, and it really is something that we'll be addressing a lot when we eventually get there, is the fact that the race is projected, if we go green the entirety of the way, to be about 3 hours long. If we have cautions, it'll be longer than that. For the most part here this season, the races haven't been short, but they've kind of been shorter than what we are used to in the past. I've noticed that in previous schedules, we've run races about 15, 20, 25 laps less than what we have on past schedules. But this Indianapolis race, it's an endurance race for these drivers. They're going to have to have themselves physically, mentally ready and prepared for what's going to be 3+ grueling hours.
And realistically, it's not all physical, it's really just mental. I mean, you got to think, yes, you're doing the same repetitive action for about 3 hours and you're kind of bracing yourself, you're running through scenarios, you're running through, hey, I need to do this. It's kind of reactionary based, but just mental state of, hey, a lot of these races last about an hour. Hey, we're going about 2 to 3 hours past what we're used to. And we're even doing qualifying on the same day. So like I said, a lot of these guys are going to be really on edge that race. I'm going to be a little bit concerned with how this one's going to play out.
You know what I'm going to be concerned about? Last year, you master driving that pace car, and now they've changed changed the Indianapolis version on you. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna play any difference
I
into
don't
your
even know
performance
what car
leaving
I
the field.
don't even know what car I'm getting. I thought I was getting the Corvette. I don't know if I'm getting the Corvette this year. I think I may be getting the Jetta.
So let me hit you real quickly here with a little bit of an interesting tidbit statistically about that upcoming Dark Horse 500. Former winners of the event, we had two of them that we interviewed here tonight. Forsyth won it in Season 2, Wagner won it in Season 3. The other two drivers that have won this event are Nick DeGroot and Rick Ravon, former champions. However, we have yet to have a driver win both the Dark Horse 500 and the championship in the same season. Now, I'm certain that's a statistic that Craig Forsyth doesn't want to hear, but I mean, there's only theoretically, based on what you're talking about with the possible long shot scenario, two drivers that are in the hunt for the championship. And even that, as stated, is a long shot, so the championship may already be wrapped up. We don't know how many drivers are going to be taking part in that Dark Horse 500, but every other driver is going to be out there just gunning for that checkered flag. They could care less about points. They could care less about the championship scenario. So do we see the streak continue with a driver that's not winning the championship, winning the Dark Horse 500?
I realistically think as good as Craig Forsyth is, Indy is not always a race about strategy. It's not always a race about speed. It's sometimes just a race about luck and being in the right place at the right time. And I think that's really what it's going to come down to, just being in the right place at the right time and being able to capitalize on the situation and the performances that are handed to you. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle, but I think we're going to see a new winner.
Well, here tonight, Luis Gonzalez Nunez now is tied with Craig Forsyth for most wins on the season, 4 apiece. Next week at Indianapolis might be the rubber match between those two. See who's going to end out the season with a season-leading 5th victory. But again, there's going to be a lot of other drivers in the field that are going to be looking to get that checkered flag as well. We hope that you will all join us for that. Again, it will be a different start time. We will be going green around 7:10, so broadcast out here on FRN will be around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in preparation for that long, enduring season finale at the home of the Yard of Bricks. But Matt, a great race here tonight, a precursor to that season finale. A great racing all the way through the field. We ended up seeing that long green flag run, a little couple of cautions there at the end to spice things up, but third time we've been here to Motegi, did not disappoint, and has us with some very interesting storylines going into Indy for the finale.
Absolutely. And again, it's always going to be kind of an interesting race when we get to Indy. It's going to, I think realistically, it's just going to come down to, like we said, just right place, right time, and a good strategy.
Well, appreciate you joining me in the booth for this one. Can't wait for next week when we see you pull double duty down there in the pace car and then be up in the booth. All I can say is get some rest because it's going to be grueling for the drivers and going to be grueling up here for us as well. Working a lot of different mental notes, whether it be fuel, whether it be points. We're going to have our hands full as well.
It could be worse. Could be worse.
Good indeed. Good indeed. We're going to get entertained. That's for sure. They never seem to disappoint when it comes down to that season finale.
It's never Scott Rankin at like 3 a.m. yelling. Hey, we're always good.
Oh, man. But again, thanks to everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, be sure to join us for the finale next week at Indianapolis, where It's the big one. It's the big race, the big checkered flag everybody wants. And at the end of the night, we're crowning ourselves a champion in season 6 of the Dark Horse Racing Series. But for Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Sunday night for the season finale for the Dark Horse Racing Series here on FRN, the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.